Uh, oh, I think I'm live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Accenture Q&A with Pro Triathlete Jesse Thomas. That is myself. Sounds a little weird to say that, but I hope there's some people that are tuned in. It looks like we had at least a number of people RSVP, and I've got a bunch of people through email and everything else. So hopefully this works out for everyone. I just wanted to first of all say thank you to Accenture for having me and for supporting my triathlon career. As many of you guys probably could guess, it's not an easy career to make it in. So I really appreciate their support, and I'm happy to help you guys however I can. A little bit about me. Well, actually, just before I even jump into that, this is the second webinar I've ever done, so I'm not 100% exactly sure how to make it work all the time. I hope that it does work well, and that you can ask me questions, and we'll get you guys some great feedback and information on anything that can help you with the race or triathlon or balancing triathlon with everything else in general. So, let me know if you have questions as we're going. I did receive a number of questions before the broadcast, but if you have questions as we're going, here's my email address and my Twitter handle. It's jesse@leapdaysports.com and @JesseMThomas. So feel free to either email me or tweet me at that Twitter handle, and I can answer your questions as well. And if you find a way to ask me questions actually through this Google Plus view or through YouTube or something like that, feel free to do that also. I'm not sure I'll see those, but so this is your best bet, but try it out. Okay. I've got a little bit with the way that I'm going to do this is I've got an intro. I'll kind of talk just briefly about myself, so you know what my deal is and why you should even half care about listening to what I say. And then I'm going to go through just a brief overview of my experience at the New York City Triathlon and some of the tips and tricks that I took away after competing in it last year in the pro field. And then I'm going to get to the questions that you guys submitted. I'm going to try to go through the first two things pretty quick so I can spend a little more time on the questions. And if you guys have more questions to ask as it's going on as well, then I have more time to do that also. So that's how it goes. Here we go. I think intro, as I said, this is Accenture. In case you don't know where you are right now, you are watching a webinar with me. I'm Jesse Thomas for Accenture for the New York City Triathlon. I'm a professional triathlete. I'm in my 5th year. My, I guess, kind of list of things that I've accomplished, most maybe known as a 5-time wildflower champion. I'm the only person that's ever won it 5 times, and I've won 5 in a row. I've also won 2 70.3s, and I've podiumed in a number of other races. And I think to date, outside of I was 12th of the World Championships. Outside of a World Championships, I think I've always finished in the money in the pro field. That's one thing I'm happy with. I am also a business owner. As you can see, grossly branded behind me, I'm in my Picky Bars office right now. We are a 8-person company on track. We're going to do about 1.6, 1.7 million in sales. Still very much a small startup, but super fun thing that I balance every day with my professional triathlon career. I am also a columnist for Triathlete Magazine, which some of you, maybe many of you, have read my articles, the Triatholife column. Super fun thing that I do every month and get a lot of good feedback from people. Basically just write about whatever I feel about riding, but mostly about balancing, the sport, work, and life, and family. And so I do that also. And then finally, as the family part of it, I'm a dad and I'm a husband. I've got a 2-year-old son, Jude, and my wife is a professional distance runner, much more talented than myself, Lauren Fleshman. So what we're going to talk about today, just like I said, we'll talk about the New York City Triathlon. I'll answer your questions, and then any other like general triathlon or balancing questions, anything related to any of my articles that you guys have, whatever you want, I'm available to answer questions on, and hopefully it works out. Why should you care? I think I've done the New York City Triathlon before, from any of you that haven't done it, so I do have some insight there. I've been racing for a long time, and I raced competitively for a while before, and you know, and I've also, I think also I come from a more balanced background than most of the pros do. I was after I ran at Stanford, I took about 7 years off, went to business school, started a tech company with some of my friends, and then, you know, now have a business, a wife, a kid, and a number of other things going on. So lead a pretty balanced life, even though I'm, you know, attempting to pursue triathlon at the highest level. And I think that extra perspective, or kind of balancing those things all together, gives me a little bit more insight than the typical pro into the typical age group experience, which is, for you guys, you're trying to do this crazy demanding sport in spite of your already crazy demanding lives with your families and your careers and the number of other responsibilities and obligations that you have going on. So you know, I think we're all kind of in what one of my favorite things about triathlon is that age groupers race with the pros side by side. There's lots of interaction that happens on certainly at the races and in and out of the races as well. And you know, I love being a part of that, and I think we can all relate to each other and learn from each other in a number of different ways. So happy to be here and help you guys in whatever way I can. Real quick background on me. I grew up here in Bend, which is where Picky Bars is based. I went to Stanford on a track and field and cross country scholarship. I did 2 mechanical engineering degrees there, bachelor's and master's. I was an All-American and a school record holder in the steeplechase. As I said, after that, I started a company in San Francisco, eventually got engaged to my wife, Lauren, and moved to Eugene, went to business school, and then it was randomly, I was 29 years old, had finished business school, and decided, you know, I wasn't done competing, and I was going to try to do this triathlon thing. And it was then that we started Picky Bars, and I also started my career. So the last 5 years have been just the two kind of growing in tandem, and it's been a wild ride, but it's been a lot of fun. I'm sponsored by Pearl Izumi, Roca Sports. It's clearly Accenture, Jaybird, and Red Bull, among others. And it's been a super, super fun ride, and I'm just happy to help and be a part of the sport as much as I can. So let's go into, see, I'm just checking here. I'm gonna double check in that I haven't gotten any extra questions yet or anything else. And here is, once again, for those of you that I think maybe started a little late, because it looks like I'm actually getting a number of viewers kind of checking in here. This is how you can get a hold of me right now if you want to ask a question as I'm going through this, and feel free to email or tweet me at this at any time during the thing. If any questions pop up, the more questions, the better. It makes it more interactive, and I'm getting you guys the information that you need. So there it is, Jesse M. Thomas, Jesse at leapdaysports.com, and I'll come back to this every once in a while if you guys need it. Okay, overview of New York City Triathlon. We'll get into the meat here. I'm just going to kind of go through swim, bike, run, and then some general overall tips. You know, and I'll kind of try to go through those pretty quickly, because I actually did get a number of questions before the webinar started. So overview. The swim, my headline for the swim was dirty, but not as bad as you think. So it is, it's pretty dirty. Last year was my first year. It was gross, but it wasn't as gross. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. It was a little brown. You definitely can't see, you know, even your hand through your goggles. But I didn't feel like I was tasting anything. I didn't feel like I came out covered in dirt or mud or anything. Thank God, anything else. But so I guess my tip is the number one question that I get is like, oh gosh, what's it like swimming in the Hudson? And it's not that bad. So, don't overthink it. Certainly, don't drink the water. Don't leave your mouth open any more than you need to breathe. But otherwise, just relax and enjoy it. I would say, it's, as many of you have heard, it's a down current swim most of the time, and depending on when you jump in, the current can range from anywhere from very, quite fast to kind of a slower trickle. So I would say in general, it's a pretty easy swim. It's for a lot of you guys that are first timers, it's one of the easiest swims I've ever done in any race. Actually, it's literally the easiest swim. So that's good, because that's a big fear factor for most people that are just starting in the sport. It goes by pretty fast. There's great sighting because you're swimming straight, but you're always 20 to 40 yards off the river wall, whatever it's called, over to your left as you're swimming down. So it's pretty easy to go straight, go the way you're supposed to go. You don't have to make any turns. And it's a real good swim for first timers and for people that really want to clearly swim the fastest they've ever swam with the down current swim. Couple quick tips: stay middle right off the dock that you jump off of. So you will jump off of the dock. For us pros, we dive off. For you guys in the age group, I think my tip for any of you is to just do whatever is comfortable. Don't try anything. Don't go like, oh, it's a race, I gotta do a double backflip and just perfectly dolphin into the water. Just do whatever's comfortable, that you're going to get in there and you're going to be all right, and your goggles aren't going to fly off, and you're just going to start swimming. So but you jump in there, stay middle right. From what I understand from last year, kind of the farther left you are, the closer to the wall, the less current you have. So it's a little bit faster to swim in that kind of middle to the right side a little bit. Like I said, really easy sighting because you've got the wall to your left the whole time, so you can kind of gauge your distance off the wall to make sure that you're going straight. But it is important to sight for those of you that don't have a lot of open water swimming experience. I recommend every 4 to 8 strokes, you're kind of just doing a little pop-up. It doesn't have to be a massive motion, but you're just lifting your head, you're kind of coming in, your stroke comes down, and then you come around and your stroke comes down, and you lift your head just like you're about to breathe, and then you just turn to the side and breathe. So I'm not a great swimmer, but I'm good enough to know how to sight. But that's basically it. It's just right on that power part of your stroke. You're lifting your head, looking for a second, and then turning and breathing. Doing that every 4 to 8 strokes. And then I would just say with the down current swim, one of the biggest problems that people have with the swim is they just go out so hard. It's a lot of adrenaline. They're excited. It's the beginning of the race. And you end up spiking your heart rate and then really suffering through the remainder of the swim, and even through the remainder of the race. So with the down current swim, I mean, there's just no reason to go out there and crush yourself in the first 5 or 10 minutes. Just really let it come to you. Get in, relax. Believe me, it should feel too easy to start, because you'll have a lot of adrenaline, and that will probably be the appropriate pace for you. So that's it. Last thing I said, which I mentioned before, was just keep your mouth closed outside of having to breathe. Okay, cruising along. T1. T1 I just mentioned as its own separate thing because it is a separate little run. It's pretty long. I had 0.6 miles on my Garmin last year, so be prepared for that. I think I got one question if there is a way to leave shoes at the end of the swim, and I'm fairly sure there isn't. I'm pretty sure you're committed to a barefoot run. So you can double check with the race organizers there in your meeting, but I'm pretty sure you're gonna have to be a barefoot run, because I don't remember there being any type of transition area. But it's a long run. Take your time, relax. I think the age groupers get to wear wetsuits. It's going to depend on the day, on the temperature, but you'll have plenty of time to kind of run, start to unzip your wetsuit as you're running. get all the way to your bike and then finish taking off your wetsuit or your swim skin, whatever it is that you're swimming in. But there's no need to spike your heart rate before that bike, so just let that come to you as well, and get ready for a great bike ride. The bike course. So switch on to the bike course. It's mostly a really, what I would call, at least out in Oregon, a very rolly course. Maybe some of the flatlanders would call it a hilly course. But there's nothing more than, you're never climbing for more than a couple few minutes at the most. And so it's nice, but it's also not flat and boring. So it's nice. It gives you some undulation and some turns that break it up and at least make it interesting. I really like the bike course a lot. The quick breakdown, the couple things that I will key off of that I'll think about. There's maybe the first real noticeable climb out. You're gonna climb immediately out of transition out onto the freeway or whatever it is, and that's semi-significant, but it's right at the beginning of the race. It's a little bit of a bottleneck, and then it's over real quick. And then you're going to ride out, and you're just kind of rolling along for a while. The key things that I key off of, there's a first kind of semi-significant climb, maybe the second most significant climb at around mile 7. Still relatively short though. For me, it's going to be about a minute. For you guys, it might be a minute and a half or 2 minutes long. It's not a super long thing, but it gives you a little bit of time to sit, get up out of the aero position, sit back and change your position a little bit and put some power into the bike. Then you have your biggest descent at about 9.5 miles. I remember it pretty well because I was in a big group. They're going pretty fast, so be ready for that. Just relax, tuck into it. Then you've got rolly, kind of similar rolly terrain to the turn around mile 12. And then your biggest climb is coming back, obviously, up that descent on the way home. And that's it just after 13 miles. So just be ready for that. That one's going to take you guys anywhere from 2 to 4 or 5 minutes, depending on. So it's the most significant climb of the course. And then you're kind of rolling back all the way in. You do actually pass where you entered the freeway, and you have kind of a little out and back, another mile or so on a false flat down. And then turn around in a false flat semi-gradual climb up to mostly to finish before the quick roll down into transition. So just remember that you will be finishing mostly with a bit of climbing, or false flat climbing is what I would call it. Biggest tips on a bike course like this would be you want to increase your power or your effort as your speed decreases. So if you want to ride efficiently, and to ride efficiently, that means that you're not putting a ton of power into the bike when you're going really fast, because most of that power is then going to drag in the air. So on rolly courses like this, the slower you go, the more power, the more effort you want to be putting into the bike. The faster you're going, the less power and effort really you want to be putting into the bike. So what that amounts to is on the climbs, or as you really start to slow down, that's where you should let yourself kind of push it, go over your average power, your average effort, your average pace into the climb, and then all the way, not just to the top of the climb, but up and over the transition, because you're still going pretty slow until you really start to gain speed, which takes another 20 to 60 seconds, depending on what the transition is like over the top of that climb. So keep the pressure on the pedals, get your momentum up, get your speed up, and then once your speed kind of re-engages and you're actually going fast, then you can kind of back it back off to your average. And then if you're going faster, like on a downhill, it's most effective to, just relax, maybe an easy spin, or maybe just no pedaling at all, and just let yourself relax and get ready to put more effort into those times when you're getting more bang out of your buck. So those are the things that I really think about, especially on rolly courses like that. It's really carrying your momentum kind of up and over the bridge of those transitionary hills. So let's see. That's my biggest tip for a bike ride like this. I'm sure there's some other bike related questions that I'll get to, but the only other thing is just hydrate and eat. that the bike is your chance, your best chance to hydrate and eat. And, you know, God knows what the temperature is going to be like. It was rainy and muggy and not cold, but certainly not warm last year, but I've heard it's been blitzing hot for this race as well. So, you know, you're clearly going to want to hydrate either way as much as you can and get in some good fuel out on the bike. Just make yourself do it. Make sure you slow down for aid stations so you can get the calories or the hydration necessary. So run course. Course kind of breaks down like this. You're 2 miles net uphill. The first 2 miles are honestly pretty tough. I remember sucking wind bad because I was with a group of 3 or 4 short course guys that are used to racing this short and this fast, and I was not ready to run as fast as they wanted to run. So you start with a really steep uphill just right out of transition, and then you get into the park, and then it's still kind of a net uphill for the next mile. So be ready for that. And then you got 2 miles of what I'd call rolling, kind of no net gain or net loss, but you're still kind of rolling through Central Park. I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with the road around Central Park. And then you've got your 5th mile actually is a net downhill, which is pretty nice. I remember running much faster than I felt like I was running for that 5th mile, which is good. And then your last mile is kind of your 5th mile is actually net up. Sorry, I skipped one. Your 5th mile is actually net up. So you get this. So you get 2 up. You get a rolly transition, and then you get another one that kind of feels like a net up. So it's a little bit of a pain, and it's the last mile that was nice because I remember being very, very tired and thinking I want this to be over as soon as possible. And it was nice to have a little bit of downhill to get me into the finish. I'll go over some other stuff if you guys have other questions, but my thing for the run course is go out conservatively, especially because it's really hilly to start. So it's going to be really easy to spike your heart rate, and kind of the opposite to cycling. You don't actually want to like work the hills and then relax on the downhills. In running, you want to focus on keeping a little bit more level heart rate. So I tend to back off on the hills a little bit to try to keep my heart rate in check, and then carry my speed, actually work the downhills a little bit to keep my heart rate up. So I'm keeping it more level, and that tends to result in a faster run for me. So like I said, a little bit opposite of that biking mentality, but the general idea is just keep yourself in check on the hills so you're not spiking your heart rate, because it's so much harder to recover from a spiked heart rate on a run than it is on a bicycle. And then hydrate and eat, especially that first few aid stations. Make sure you're slowing down enough. It's always worth it to slow down and lose a few seconds, 15, 20 seconds to get some fuel in, some hydration in those aid stations. It's always worth it. It can save you minutes and minutes and minutes in the last part of your race. So definitely do that. Overall general tips for triathlon and for this triathlon in general, and then I'll get to your guys' questions. Pacing. Go slower than you think you should to begin. The easiest thing to do, especially for beginners, is to go too hard too soon. Like I said, you have lots of adrenaline. It's really exciting. It's super fun. You're around a crowd, maybe, especially when you're starting each discipline. You're usually around a crowd, around transition. So go easier than you feel like you should, and that probably will end up being the appropriate pace. There's plenty, I guess I put it this way, there's plenty of race to go hard. Even if you only just saved it for the last few miles on the run, you'd be amazed at how much you can make yourself hurt in just the last few miles. So just keep that in mind if you feel like you're maybe going a little too easy. Temp, I talked a little bit about this, but it can be hot, it can be cold. I don't know what the temperature is going to be like there. But we'll take a look at it. But it's really important to hydrate and fuel as much as you can throughout the course. Make sure you make that a priority. That's the #1 thing that keeps people down. Same thing with Yeah, or actually nutrition I had was the next one, which is just a lot related to temperature, just making sure hydrate, fuel, hit those aid stations, and get in your calories and get in the liquids necessary to process the calories and to keep yourself hydrated. Stay positive. I use mantras all the time when I race. So stay on it. You know, I tell myself, good job, you're killing it, you're doing great. You know, whatever it takes to get me through the next step, stay positive. And then in the lead up, get plenty of rest, eat normally, don't overthink it. Just be as normal as you can. Just like it was just like you got a tough workout on Sunday or whatever it is. There's no reason to overthink it or certainly do anything different or do anything crazy. So just enjoy it and enjoy the process of racing. It's really like what it's all about. Here we go. Questions. I am through that stuff. Sorry that took so long, but I think I answered some of the questions as we were going along anyway. So again, if anybody has questions, I'm just going to double check that I actually have gotten a few questions. So I will add those to the mix as well. But here is my email address and my Twitter handle. I've got both of those open if you guys want to email me or tweet me questions. But I'll get into those right now. All right. General, I'm just going to go through questions in the way that in the order that I received them. So I got a general question about strength training. He says, I am pretty good at building it into my schedule of workouts during the off season, but I find that that this is the thing that tends to drop out when real volume and the real training comes in. Any tips for how we don't fall into this trap? Yeah, I think strength training is a super, super important part of triathlon. And I think every triathlete struggles with that problem because it's so much more compelling and fun to go for a bike ride or a run, or sometimes, God forbid, even a swim is more fun than doing strength training. But it's a really important part. You have to work it in. My tip and the thing that I try to do is I make myself do it. If that means that I'm riding for 20 or 30 minutes less that day, or running less or swimming less, then that's what I do, because your body has to have that different stimulus. If it's just another 20 or 30 minutes of riding, I mean, what's the benefit of that versus doing something completely different for your body that increases your flexibility, increases your strength, reduces injury possibility. So, you know, my thing is, if you're coming up to a barrier on your time, then cut out a little bit of the other stuff and make room for that strength training. It's just as important as the other three. Any tips on getting more comfortable swimming in a wetsuit? I normally swim open water without one, but my first one I struggled a little bit. Yes, it's pretty simple, but practice. You know, I actually have I have the luxury of having a number of old wetsuits from Roca. Prototypes from before we even started the company, and I actually have one that's just set aside for the pool, and I do, much to the dismay of my swimming group and my friends in the pool, I get in that wetsuit you know, maybe once a week, even when the season starts to get up and going, in the pool and swim in there. And sometimes it's very, very hot and it's uncomfortable. And you look like a total dork, but I do it. So if you go out and do it, you can blame me. But I do think it helps just to swim in the wetsuit when you can, or, you know, hit the open water as much as you can. That's the best thing you can do that people underestimate, is there's a big difference between swimming in the pool versus swimming open water. So if you have the opportunity to swim open water anywhere around that you live, you know, try to make that trip once a week, once every 2 weeks, whatever it is. It usually takes extra time, but it's definitely worth it to help you feel more comfortable and mentally prepared for open water swims in the races. What do you do when you're in a training funk or your schedule won't permit you to train fully to the plan you have? That's a great question. What I wrote in my response was, you just have to be flexible. I mean, triathlon is for all of us. It's a part of life. It's not life, myself included, right? And it's my job. It's my income source. It's clearly a big part of my life. But you have to be as flexible as you can. And if you are feeling in a funk because you're not meeting the expectations of your training because your life doesn't allow you to meet those expectations, then it's time to change your expectations, and realize that, hey, it's a part of all these different things that I've got to balance. And if it's not fitting into the grander scheme of my life and I'm not enjoying it, I'm not getting happiness out of it, then what's the point of doing it anyway? So that's the way that I look at it. Hope that helps. All right, I've got a bunch of questions from one lady that I'm going to go through these pretty quick because I went through some of them already. They're more specific to the race, so these are good. Swim, do you encourage the use of a wetsuit? Yes, 100%. If it's legal or within the temperature for you guys, definitely use a wetsuit. It's way faster. You'll be more comfortable. It's flotation. It's safer. So definitely do it. Yeah, no doubt. How choppy is the water? For example, is it possible to swim side stroke for a good distance? I'm not sure what you mean by side stroke. I don't remember the water being particularly choppy, actually at all. But it's like I said, relatively easy to sight because you're just going straight. You're down current, and you can see the wall to your left. So I wouldn't overthink it. Don't overthink it. It's not bad. Can you leave shoes at the river exit? No, I'm pretty sure you can't. We talked about that. Should you do a firefighter jump off the pier? Like I said, do whatever is comfortable for you. Don't do anything crazy. Just do whatever is comfortable, get in the water, and then start swimming. The first 5, 10, 20, 30 seconds, 3 minutes even of the swim, doesn't matter. Best techniques to break away from the pack. I'm not sure if you mean swimming away from the pack, like swimming faster than them, or getting away so you're not getting kind of caught up in the pack. But it's definitely worth it to a lot of people tend to breathe to one side better than the other, and they kind of stick to that side in their race. So I tend to keep the majority of the guys that I'm racing to my left side because I breathe to my left side primarily, and that way I can see them and kind of judge my distance, how far away from them I am. So I'm not getting like veering off or getting too far away, but then at the same time, I'm also not just like drilling myself blindly into the back of them and then, getting caught up in kind of the craziness of the pack. So that's what I would say is just kind of keep them in your sight on your, on your breathing and judge your distance accordingly to how comfortable you need to be. Have you heard about any issues with jellyfish? No, I haven't. And I think you guys will be in wetsuits. I think you're going to be fine. I certainly didn't have anything yesterday. This was can you provide any spotting technique that I can start practicing in the pool? Yeah. So like I said, I kind of went through this before, but it should just be a natural kind of part of your breath every 6 to 8 strokes. So you're coming up, on your power stroke, you're going to look up, and then bend to the left, breathe, and then come back in. Practice it in the pool. It's the same. So try to do 2 to 3 sites every length, for some of your sets, or for 1 of every 2 of your intervals, or whatever it is. Try that out and get used to doing that. It's really good, really important. Transition. Do you lock your bike, or is there security provided? You do not lock your bike. Security is provided. As you exit the area, there are no passing zones. If so, do these work, or do some break the rules? I'm sure some break the rules, but my experience was that it works. It's a pretty tight corridor in there, so you're not going to make or break your race in that first little section where there is no passing area. So I would just say do whatever is safe and that gets you up to the freeway in one piece, and you'll be good. You'll be ready to go. Bike. How tough is it to pass others in limited space? Clearly, I was in the pro field, so it was clearly a lot more open than it was for you guys, and it looked busier for sure as I was coming back and I saw the age groupers come out. I think similar to what I said before, safety is the most important thing. So, you're not going to make or break your race by passing any one person at a specific time. Just make sure you do what is comfortable and within your limits and your capabilities, and you'll be fine. You'll have a great experience, and that's the most important part of it. Do you bring water on the bike? Absolutely, yeah. Even for me, I'll bring probably 2 water bottles and then take another water bottle from an aid station. So for me, that's like 3 water bottles in the span of an hour, or hopefully quite a bit less than an hour of riding. So yeah, you should be drinking. You should be practicing hydrating. Bring a water bottle for sure, and then hit the aid stations. Run, are there enough water stations? Yes, I felt like there's a water station, I think every mile, which is plenty. You couldn't get in more than that anyway. Nutrition question. Do you eat before the race? Absolutely. You should eat a normal breakfast just like you would before a hard workout. I like to eat 3 hours before the race. I usually eat some oatmeal is kind of my go-to pre-race breakfast. And then I usually eat a picky bar up to kind of an hour and a half before, just kind of once I get down in transition. I've been moving for a while and everything else, and I'm about to go warm up. So, but the general idea is just eat what's normal for you before your workouts or before your hard workouts, and you should be fine. No reason to change anything or overthink it. General question, if you are slower, are there facilities if nature calls? Yes, I believe there are plenty of, it doesn't matter if you're slower. I've had to use facilities as well. So I believe there are plenty of porta potties around, both on the bike course, certainly in transition, and then certainly out on the run course as well. Let's see, other questions that I have here. I've got a couple more here. I'm going to pull some up because I got some from people while we were talking. All right, here we go, guys. Let me pull these up on my phone here because I've kind of got two things going. If anybody else has any questions, again, here is Jesse at leapdaysports.com, and it's at Jesse M. Thomas. Okay, so let me make sure I get all these. All right, this question from Tom. Jesse, as a swimmer on the Accenture team, I have been reading that swimmers are at the water very early in the morning and unfortunately have a lot of time before they hit the water. What do you recommend doing while waiting to hit the water? When should you start warming up, and what type of warm-up? That's a great question. That's a really good question. Yeah, you have to be there early. It's I didn't even talk about the logistics involved, but you check in your bike. And it's, you walk basically all the way up to the swim start, because then you're swimming back down current. So it takes a while. So you need to get there. You need to get there plenty early. What I did last year was I checked in my bike, got my transition all set up, and then I took we couldn't wear wetsuits, but I took my swim skin with me. And some shoes. I think because we had the pros got a special deal with a bag that we could drop off some shoes, and I'm not sure if you guys get that or not. But what I would encourage you guys to do is similar to me, which is just bring your wetsuit with you, and potentially just put on your wetsuit to stay warm if it's cold. If not, then just cruise up there in whatever you need to, your tri-kit and your bare feet up there, hang out, relax as much as you can. And then what I would do is, for most of you guys, anywhere from like 30, max maybe of 45 minutes to 20 minutes before your wave, I would do a little bit of jogging, even if it's just in your bare feet. Just up and down the little path there, just to kind of get your heart rate turned up a little bit. My coach calls it turning on your engine, just warming it up. anywhere from 5 to 10 or 15 minutes, if you feel like doing that, and that's not going to fatigue you, is good. You certainly want to have your heart rate going and have turned on the engine before you start that swim. You're not going to be able to do any actual swimming, clearly, because of the current. So jog, and then some stretching, some good arm motions. I do stuff like just simple. I'm doing twists. I'm doing kind of like practice strokes. If you want, and you're advanced enough, excited enough about it, you can bring some of those big rubber bands, rubber kind of cables, and actually wrap those around a tree and do some pulling on those. I've done that before, and actually I probably will do that again this year because you don't get to jump into the water. But yeah, it's a great question. The simple part of it is jog for 5 to 10 minutes to kind of warm up. You could even do a stride or two in your bare feet to kind of like practice that, getting your heart rate up for a bit, and then bringing it back down. But definitely turn on that engine before you start. All right, good question, Tom. Let's see. Robert, for a first timer, what are your hydration suggestions? So specifically, it depends a lot on how much you sweat, but I'm a bigger guy for the pro guys. I weigh about 180 pounds. If I'm riding and running hard, I sweat about a water bottle, so like a 24-ounce, just a normal bike, kind of tall bike water bottle, every 30 minutes. So I try to replace as much of that as I can. You're gonna have, and you want to put in some sodium or some type of electrolyte thing in there. I use Osmo, which is a great product developed by Stanford PhD, who's a really nice person and who is a professional cyclist, Stacy Sims. Scratch Labs is a similar product. But putting that in, and for most of you guys, I'd aim for at least 1 to 2 bottles of hydration on the bike, and then also some calories. Of course, a picky bar is a great balanced energy source, but people eat Cliff bars or gels and stuff like that. I tend to like to eat food like a picky bar as much as I can, and so that's what I aim for. Yeah, I hope that helps. And then on the run, you're kind of more subject to what's available on course because it's hard to carry too much. But what I tend to aim for is kind of one like electrolyte or caffeine thing. So for me, I actually drink Red Bull on the run because it gives me a great caffeine and sugar infusion that gets into my bloodstream immediately. So I'll hit like kind of a shot of that and then a shot of water, and I'll kind of alternate between those two as much as I can, and getting in as much water as I possibly can, because it's kind of impossible for at least a guy my size, and really for most people, to overhydrate on the run. Hopefully that helps. Pacing suggestions, another question from Robert. As I talked about, just feel like you're going a little bit too easy for you first timers, and that's probably actually a really good pace because you'll be excited. So that's my suggestion. Swim question from Leonard. Hi Jesse, what do you suggest when you start hyperventilating during the swim? Can you hold on to a buoy? That's a great question. So I personally haven't ever hyperventilated in my racing before, but I know people that have. And yeah, you need to be aware of what's around you. The thing I would do first is do whatever you can to prevent it from happening in the first place. And I think the main things you can do to prevent yourself from either hyperventilating or having like a nervous attack or what, there are a number of different things that happen, are to warm up. There's a couple things actually. First thing is to do some practice of some kind in your wetsuit in open water if you can, and just be familiar with that, so it's not a shock the first time that you get in there, especially swimming around other people if you can. If there's a group in the next 3 to 4 weeks that is going to go out and do a lake swim together, go do that with them. That's a massive thing that will make a huge difference in how comfortable you swim. The second thing is warm up before the swim. So you're not going from 0 to hero right as soon as you get in the water. Your heart rate is already started, your body's ready, it's anticipating an effort. That's super important. Do those two things. And then the third thing is just stay as relaxed as you possibly can when you get in there. And that's kind of like, I know maybe easier said than done, but a lot of people get too hyped up with, I got to be swimming fast, or there's lots of people around, or whatever. And you can kind of disengage from that and just say, hey, I'm gonna let everybody jump off the dock first. I'm gonna wait 3 seconds, and then I'm gonna jump off, and I'm gonna be swimming all by myself, and it'll be great. And everybody will be in front of me, and I'll be relaxed, and I won't have any problems. So just do whatever it takes for you to get through the race comfortably. I think that's the most important thing. If you do happen to hyperventilate, yeah, certainly seek out a buoy, seek out some of the guides, I guess that they call them. There'll be guys on like either stand-up paddleboards or kayaks, or even probably jet skis or something out there. So, seek out that thing, hold up your hand, tell them that you need some help. And that certainly, whatever it takes for you to get your heart rate back down, calm down, take a breather, and then, slowly proceed on if you feel capable and safe enough to do so. Good question, Lenny. Let's see. Marissa, working through these questions. Hi, Jesse. Thanks for the help. Well, thank you. What type of goggles to use? I feel like when I'm swimming, I can't see through my goggles. I feel like they fog up. I use Roka goggles, of course, but actually, I mean, I help to a certain extent, help those guys develop the goggles that they have, and they're great goggles. I just swam with them 2 days ago at Mont Tremblant 70.3 and had no problems with them fogging up at all. My general thing is to, if you can get like new goggles are pretty good. And then just a light rinse, like the newer the goggle, the less likely it's going to fog up. And then just a light rinse with just water, for me, tends to work pretty well. Sometimes I could spit or lick the inside of the goggles. You hear that from a lot of swimmers as well. But just a light rinse with water and then putting them on my face tends to help quite a bit. The Roka F2 goggles are my favorite. They're like a nice blend of having a really good they're comfortable and having really good vision, but they also aren't like massive like a ski mask. So they stay on, they don't fall off, and it's a good goggle. So I would recommend that one for sure. How did you calculate your food liquid intake? There are a number of different, you can look it up online. I can't remember the specific like grams per weight and all that type of stuff, but a lot of it's trial and error, and the general guideline would be anywhere from 200 to 400 calories an hour is kind of like what your body can process depending on how much you weigh. And really there's a limit, because after that point it's like, what can your body actually consume and then turn into glycogen or whatever it is to help you go forward, to help you actually keep your energy levels up. So for you, I would say, depending on how big you are, how well you metabolize stuff, just do some tests. That's the best thing you can do, is create a plan before your next workout and then stick to the plan and then see how it goes. If you felt like your stomach was upset, you probably had a little bit too much food, or you didn't have enough water to wash it down or to help yourself process it. If you felt like you ran out of energy, you maybe needed to eat a little bit more food. If you felt like you were dehydrated, or you started, you were caked with salt, you need some more salt or more hydration. So testing is the best thing to do. But the general guideline is 200 to 300, 200 to 350 calories an hour, depending on how big you are. And then I would say anywhere from 1 to 2 24-ounce like cycling bottles an hour of hydration. Hope that helps. Thanks for the question. Okay. I've got 3 more questions, I think. So we're cruising in. This is from Tristan. Hey Jesse, couple of questions. I'm fairly experienced triathlete, but I seem to struggle with getting sick on taper week right before a race. Any tips? Getting sick on taper week, That's interesting. I think taper week always feels like a little bit of a funk, because you're decreasing your training stress and really like your schedule and everything. I think it's really important to rest as much as you can during taper week. You're probably getting sick not because of the actual taper week, but probably because you're coming off of a super hard training block where your immune system was suppressed and you maybe weren't sleeping as well, or you weren't as rested as you normally are. So towards the tail end of that hard training block, make sure that you're sleeping as much as you can, getting as much rest as you can, certainly washing your hands or avoiding, public, avoiding like germy places. I always think about it when I go into like Whole Foods or something or whatever. I'm like, don't eat the samples. People have been sticking their hands in there. If I got a race coming up, you just don't know where, any places where there's going to be bugs, because you got to anticipate that your immune system is going to be a little bit more suppressed than normal. So I would do that. And it's just really just getting as much rest as you possibly can, I think, especially like towards the tail end of that tough training block. And then on taper week, same thing, relaxing. Lauren calls it, my wife says, keep it low, which is actually a reference to your cortisol levels, right? So cortisol levels increase with stress. And regardless of if it's training stress or you're nervous or you're got some stress at work or your family or something, it kind of does the same thing to your body. So I just try to keep it low. That's my mantra for taper week, for the week before the race. Just try to be like, hey, everything's good, everything's fine. This is going to be a fun week. I'm really excited. And if one thing goes wrong, because it inevitably will, it just doesn't affect me. It's just kind of keeping it low. So that's my mantra for taper week. Are you going to 70.3 Worlds? Yes, I am. 100%. I had a good race last weekend. So after last weekend, I'm 20 on the list. So I'm definitely clear and safe to be in that top 40 or 50 guys. And I don't plan on doing any other 70.3s before Worlds. New York City Triathlon actually will be my last race, and then I'll do Worlds. So maybe I'll see you there. Thanks for the question. Let's see. A couple more here. Another one. Let's see, Leonard. Oh, wait. Oh, I already got this one. Yep, we did the hyperventilating thing. The buoy. So let's go to Charles. He says it's a stupid question. There are no stupid questions, Charles. Can you use a phone or an iPod to listen to music at any part of the race? No, you can't. Generally, I think that's a USA Triathlon kind of national rule or whatever, but it's unfortunate because it is awesome to listen to music or whatever while you're exercise, and it would be really fun during the race, but it's just clearly a danger risk there with, there's lots of people out on that bike course. There's, people riding around people and everything else, and God knows what other type of things could pop up. So I think it's good. It's important that, that we all have our eyes and our ears out on the road. So not until, but you can do it in warm up and you can do it when you're done. So I would do it in warm up. And what I try to do is just get that song, that one song that just keeps you going, just get it stuck in your head and just keep it in there for the next few hours, however long it takes. Good question though. Let me see. Oh, I got an answer actually from Justin. Thank you, Justin, on one of the questions that I wasn't sure about with the logistics to start the race. So age groupers. So as I said, you go check in your bike at T1, and then you will go to and then you have the long walk up to the start of the swim. And Justin says that age groupers have a swim start bag to bring stuff up. So you can bring up warm clothes, sounds, probably shoes, whatever you want to bring up with you for that long walk and that weight up there before the swim starts. So I would, going back to that question, I would definitely recommend keeping on your running shoes, maybe your warm-ups, whatever it is that you're going to be comfortable in, carrying your wetsuit with you. And then in that case, I would do a warm-up, do that little warm-up jog I was talking to you about before you put your wetsuit on, kind of help you wake up. Sometimes it helps you, just get the body started, and then you put on your wetsuit. And putting on your wetsuit for a lot of us will even just be warm up for your arms. And but that's what I would do, and then put all that stuff in your bag, and then drop it off in the bag, and then go get ready to get onto the dock and go. So thanks, Justin, for the clarification on that. Let me just double check that we got all of our questions here. I got one. I got one comment from TL Horsted. He said, "Thanks a lot." And he said, "I should have worn my aviators." Well, I've got them, of course, right here. So there you go. That's as goofy as it gets. So whenever I pull this out, it's clearly time for the webinar to be over. So I appreciate all you guys, all your questions. I will be at the Accenture Expo booth on this Saturday, the day before the race. The exact time we will send out to you guys. I can't remember it exactly, but I think that we've set it. But we'll send it to you guys. I have your questions and my notes actually written down. So I will send you guys through Justin. I'll send you guys the document that has all this, and then just some other things from the other webinars that I've done as well. So you guys can kind of read through some of this stuff and take whatever information you want or need from it. But come say hi at the definitely come say hi at the Expo booth, or after the race or before the race. If you see me around, please don't hesitate to introduce yourself and say hi, or ask me any other questions that you have. You've also got my email address, so if you have questions, feel free to ask afterwards as well. Thanks so much, guys, and thanks again to Accenture for having me and having me out at the race. I'm excited to see you guys in New York in a few weeks. Have a good one. Thanks. Bye.